environmental crisis and the health crisis and the social crisis is coming from this assumption that we are separate from nature, that we are one and the same. And in 30 years, 40 years, 50 years time, this will be the norm. So we'll be saying, of course the earth is round. Who said the earth was flat?
Thank you very much. I couldn't agree with you more. Especially personally, I come from an indigenous family. And I also had my education in New Zealand, where they also have a lot of respect over the indigenous tribe over there. So what Bobsy mentioned, somehow it's all of this very strong message about human beings are not separate from Mother Earth is in fact still a very strong focus among a lot of these indigenous populations around the world. So I do hope that everyone attending the conference can feel the positive energy started to build up in this room. I think it's actually quite amazing. But, as an academic, coming back now, how are we doing right now? Okay, we do have a very positive and hopeful future that we can envision. But how are we doing now? So, Natalie, you mentioned that you won the competition with some of your peers. So would you say that many of the youngsters in your generation, they are getting quite a lot of this awareness and they are starting to do something about it, taking some real actions? Would you say we are doing actually much better at the moment comparing to like 10 years ago?
I would definitely think we are doing much better because our youth are more educated on the importance of climate issue, and we have climate change incorporated in a lot of our syllabuses. Not only in Hong Kong but also in Italy, climate change education has become compulsory, and Hong Kong still has some way to go, even though we touch a bit upon it in our liberal studies curriculum. Well, I think in recent years, especially in the past 5 to 10 years, since the IPCC has been publishing the assessment reports and the latest 2018 report on special report of 1.5 degrees of warming, it has raised a lot of awareness, including in climate activism or in some kind of bottom-up education initiatives. I'm seeing more Instagram platforms or even media channels speaking about it. And this is why some of my friends and I founded the Hong Kong Youth for Climate Action in June 2020, where we hoped to form an official platform to aggregate all these voices, because we're seeing a lot of fragmentation in the current work. Some groups are speaking maybe solely on vegetarianism, and some groups raising awareness on ocean waste or plastic waste. Of course, all of them are equally important and just as impactful, but what if we have a platform to connect all of them and to form a greater coalition where we can become a collective voice to pitch to the government, or maybe just become a larger force aggregating these small individual voices. We really present these youth perspective and voices into the government meeting rooms, not just letting them float around in the Instagram realm or in the Facebook realm. And so I think we are definitely doing a lot more, but there's still value action gap which we need to bridge, and also some sort of platform to connect all these smaller voices to make a scattered picture into a collective voice for good.
That's very good. Actually, following up on what you just mentioned, I've got a questions from the audience. So maybe each of you can comment or respond to this question. Will you still be using food as your magic in doing this sustainable diet?
Of course, that's integral. That is the biggest impact we can have as a human being alive today. The single biggest impact. Forget about turning off your tap and taking flights. These are all important, but these are minuscule compared to a change in diet. If over 50% of this calamity is coming from humanity's diet, then let's address this big monster, this big elephant in the room. Let's change our diets and not change our plans.
Yep. So Natalie, what's your plan for Asia? More sustainable, more rapidly?
One of the most important things is to appreciate the new normal. We cannot go back to the normal way of living, and why not embrace a better version of it by being more green and more sustainable? But one thing I want to rebut, Bobsy, is taking a flight is also very important in changing our climate, because these kind of carbon footprint is not counted in government figures because it's cross-border. So a lot of time we miss these linkages, seeing the ability to see the broader picture because of issues related to double counting. Hong Kong is heavily relying on import. We're importing a lot of agricultural goods, importing a lot of products that we're purchasing. And all these footprints are not accounted for, these consumption-based emissions not presented in government figures, and we tend to forget about them. When we talk about the net zero target by 2050 for Hong Kong or even for China, maybe we're just referring to what we're producing here locally, but not what we're importing from other parts of the world or from third world countries. And these impacts just indiscriminately placed on them in an unfair and in an equal way. So I think COVID-19 is also a way, like we're all trapped here in Hong Kong now, unable to fly away. And it's also a time for us to appreciate local, to appreciate things around us, start purchasing local organic farm products and buying less imported goods, and staying local by joining eco tours and appreciating the urban pockets of nature around you. So one advice for everyone is just to appreciate being where you are, appreciate yourself, appreciate the beauties around you, and to start thinking about how we tackle consumption-based emission by adopting a more minimalistic lifestyle, and of course by adopting a vegan diet, by adopting less meat and